this therapist is saying, these feelings of yours aren't unusual. In fact, several of them have websites. The web can be a great place to learn about ADHD, especially if you don't live in a city like Toronto. But sometimes there's garbage on the internet. There's a lot of people, a lot of Scientologists actually, who are anti-psychiatry, anti-medication, who want everybody to think that every psychiatric diagnosis is a pharmaceutical invention. And it can be a little disheartening reading too much of that. So be selective in what you read. Optimizing medication, what does that mean? Well, it means that you don't just go to the doctor and he or she hands you some medication and says, here, try this. That's not how it works. There's a protocol, and you'd be amazed at how few doctors follow it. It begins with identifying what are your targets? Where are you having a challenge and what do you want to improve? And not just everything, it's like identify going to bed on time or, being able to pay the bills or something. Be very focused in the beginning and then chart as you start a low dose of medication. Is that thing better or worse? And you also want to track things like irritability because some medications can make you more irritable. And so you shouldn't have to trade focus for irritability. The idea is that, there's a lot of choices out there in medications and finding the one that works best for you. Not just, taking whatever the doctor hands you. Also, make sure it's active during the common times of interaction. If you take a Concerta, say at 7 a.m., for most people, it's going to be worn off by the time you come home. It's also going to be worn off by the time you're commuting. And that's a really bad idea because sometimes when the medication's wearing off, you get symptoms that are worse than at baseline. You get a rebound. So that's not when you want to be driving. You also want to make sure the treating physician has addressed the full range of symptoms. That means if you have coexisting anxiety and depression. And with your partner, discuss important topics only when the medication's in effect. Because otherwise, it can go nowhere real fast. It can go to a bad place. And I talked in the last group about my friend with ADD who said his wife would start having these important, let's talk about the relationship conversations at about 10 o'clock at night. And, he was exhausted. His focus for the day was gone. But as it turns out, she was just trying to rev up her prefrontal cortex so she could focus on going to sleep. And if she got in a big kind of, struggle about the relationship, that was stimulating for her. And then she could nod off to sleep while he'd be up, nervous the rest of the night. Once you find that medication, if you're happy with and it, stick with your dosage. And sometimes that means starting out, keeping a journal at the beginning, because believe it or not, sometimes you'll forget how things used to be. I hear more people with ADD say, well, I've been doing pretty well since I've been on this medication, but I'm going to start weaning off it. And it's like, well, okay, why are you doing that? Because sometimes they don't remember what life was like before. And sometimes maybe there's medication necessary for both partners. This is something to talk to your doctor about, because if you're the partner of an adult with ADHD, you might have developed your own psychiatric illness over the years, depression or anxiety. And if you're a woman, you're especially biologically vulnerable to serotonin loss through stress. So it might be that you need a little boost too to help get you both over the hump and on the road to progress.